Of course, I forget to open that. Hi, I just listened to my testing stream. I did very good, so it's cool. It's cool. Today, I want to discuss or talk about my journey through life. At 56 years of it. Um, it just seems I've had a very haunted life. That word haunting it has many different faceted meanings to haunting. You can be haunted by a ghost, you can be haunted by memories. Things can haunt you, like, you know, the state of the world today is haunting, for many people. So I just wanted to share my journey and um if it helps somebody, then that's good. Many people on my Facebook know because I write about it all the time and I repeat myself all the time. And I'm sorry because I work through my trauma by writing and by doing these videos sometimes. Um, I put it out there. If it can be a blessing to somebody else, then, and help them to help themselves. And in God's eyes, I think that's one of the things that I'm supposed to do. I really feel compelled to do this. Back when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, if you said you had a haunting in your house, it was like you were the weird person. Growing up as a child, I didn't really have too many friends. I mean, I had friends, but I didn't have friends, you know. Um, my best friends, the people that I hung out with, were the elderly around the lake that I grew up in. There was a lot of elderly people. Um, I guess I should start this from the beginning. We can even go before the beginning because what I found out with my life is it started before I was even born. The generations of abuse and of alcoholism and it's called a generational curse. Um, I don't know where it started, and we don't know where it's ending with me and my and as far as I'm concerned, I don't want my daughter having it. However, there is a generational curse that is on our family. We have things that run in our family like cancer. Cancer runs in our family. This is what a generational curse is like. It's like having that DNA strand that you inherited from your family member that you're more prone to get this certain type of cancer or this certain type of disease than if you didn't have the gene. Generational curses and spiritual curses like that are the same, almost the same thing. It's where you have this certain thing that happened in your family, say, um, somebody in your ancestry had a curse, had a voodoo curse put on them, and on the generations, or um, a Santa. mer- I forgot what that was. It's down in like Florida and all the southern states. Um, it's a combination between I think voodoo and Catholicism. They put curses on people. It could be a hanging where where a person is hanged and they just curse to the people in the generation like that's why we have to be careful about what we say to people because our words have power and our words have meaning. Our words come from our hearts. If you're saying words out of your mouth that you don't like, then you got to search your heart because every single thing we speak out of our mouth comes from our heart. And I've been on a lifelong journey trying to learn what's in my heart that's keeping me from God. Okay, because I did have a dream. I did have a dream, and in it, I do believe that Jesus. met me face to face in my dream. I believe that when I am sleeping, a lot of times I'm connected to the paranormal, to the you know, my dead relatives. Okay. And that's been all the time. That's the first haunted thing I could talk about. Because I'm very connected to my family and my dreams, especially the ones that pass away. And when I was younger, I thought I was killing everybody. I thought I was responsible. And, the way things are panning out now, it's like, you know, I still having borderline personality disorder. I fight with myself constantly. And I fight with everybody else too, but fight with myself constantly, trying not to blame myself, because there's two types of people in borderline. You got the ones that lash out and everything's everybody else's fault, and then you got the ones that internalize everything, and everything is they did it. It's all about them. And I'm the it's all about me thing, as far as it's my fault that this one had this done or that done. And I'm fighting with myself, you know, still, with saying, Marie, because I was close to Manny and Shannon, and close to all these people. I mean, I got a list. It's over there. I got a list of the people who passed away, and a lot of them, there's more that, like aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles that passed away during my lifetime. But the key ones I wrote down, except for Grandpa. Grandpa I wrote down anyways, because that's, of course, he passed away in the 1970, but that was my grandfather, my grandmother's husband. He was young. Um, so I'm fighting. It's all about me. I'm the reason these people are dying. Because don't get close to me because you're gonna die. That's the way I feel right now. Those are the feelings I have to work through, and it's the type of thinking a child has, and that's borderline personality. It's kind of a and the trauma, the PTSD. My aunt didn't understand how I could have PTSD from childhood, from something that happened when I was a year and a half. And it's called Latin onset PTSD. And as you age, I guess it's normal for it to get even worse, because you're remembering, you know, you hear a lot of elderly people talking about the past. When you get older and older, you start thinking about, oh, what happened in my life? What's my fault? What isn't? And I get ashamed, and there's certain things I'm ashamed of, and I will never discuss with anyone. But so, anyways, the generational curses can happen. Um, Things link in the family bloodlines. Okay, like alcoholism. That's genetic. That's physical. That's genetic. That's something that can create a big, big, big ball of not only just genetics for your physical being, but it's a big fireball that you can have for your ancestors. Alcoholism could the spirits that attach to that, spirit of alcoholism, spirit of drunkenness, those spirits, those um demons, if you will, I call them demons, can attach to you. But if they're attached to you and you have a child, they can attach to that child too, if that child decides to pick up that first drink and then not put it down and continue into the negative behaviors and patterns of the bloodline, going down. So the demon can jump from the father to the son to the it can hop. We don't want that. We don't want that. But I believe that that's one thing that happened. The other thing is my parents did dabble in the black magic, and the problem with black magic and witchcraft is it works. And if it didn't work, you wouldn't have people doing it. And if it didn't work, you wouldn't have Satanists doing it or people, you know, devoted to Ashtaroth or about that BAAL person. All those, if it didn't work and you didn't get something out of they didn't get something out of it, they wouldn't be doing it. The problem is they're getting stuff now, but when you have to pay the piper in the long run, it's not a positive thing that you want to happen. You're getting it's kind of like when I teach my daughter love for a moment versus love for a lifetime. Love for a moment is different. I mean, I slept around when I was a teenager for love for a moment. I felt loved. I felt wanted. I felt needed. Okay. And a lot of that had to do with if I keep doing it, I can keep the person with me. Don't leave me type thing. I'll do anything you want. And that's kind of the same thing. It's like, I want this, so you're going to give me this now, but later on, you know, there's a price to pay. And when you disconnect with God so much, and when you do that stuff that's offensive to God that much, then you separate yourself from God. There's only one unforgivable sin. Remember that. So even if you've had a lifelong, as long as you've never committed blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, you got hope. There's always hope. Always hope. So my parents dabbled in the black arts. So that's the first thing that happened in my life. And see, before we are born, we have a name and a purpose. Okay. My parents didn't want me. I was oops. They didn't want me. They threw me in a closet. I don't even know if I was, offered up as a sacrifice or if I was planned to be like that. Okay. So, but that's the type of involvement my parents were you know, in the situation they were in, because all the elements of that type of worship played out in what I was told about what they did in that life with the lifestyle. Okay. I can go in deeper, but it's kind of the, some of the stuff is disgusting. It's not stuff that anybody really should know. Only to be aware that this stuff does happen. It's like babies being sacrificed does happen in this realm, in this group. All right. So that's why I'm saying black magic, and the reason why it happens is because it works. Um, and my parents were dabbling in it. They were in an environment, in situations where I found out that, through my research, that that stuff was commonplace. It was just underneath and hush hush back in the 60s and 70s. So it was commonplace. It's like it's more out in the open now. Um, and it's trying to be out in the open legally, doing, bad things, trying to make it legal. So, um, but back then it was all hush hush and you didn't know and people didn't talk about it. So that played out too in my life. So what my parents were doing right before I was conceived and right during, you know, the pregnancy with the drinking and certain other things, and then right after affected me. When you have a child, no matter whether you want the child or that child is living your life with you. So you have to be very, very careful. When you find out you're pregnant, your world's, I mean, it's a beautiful world too. I mean, parents and being non-parents, they're two different worlds. When I didn't have my child, I could tell every single parent how to manage their child and give advice. Luna, hi baby girl. What are you doing? You getting lonely? No? When I get up, I'll give you some good girl treats, okay? My good girl. I love you. So, when you have a child, I used to give this advice, maybe if don't do this or don't do that. And then when I had my child, all that went out the window. And now I know I knew nothing. I knew nothing. The more I thought I knew, the more I learned I knew nothing about raising a child. Children live their lives with their parents, meaning they're attached at the hips, whether you're not present in the moment, in the same room, holding them, touching them, talking to them, whether you're out at a bar or whether you're, feeding the homeless, that child is living your life with you. They're watching you, they're growing, they're learning. Even as an infant, they're growing, they're learning. As an infant to 5 years old, their brains are growing so quickly that they're taking everything in, even though they can't talk. So, what we do matters. It does matter. So, unfortunately, in my case, when I was born, it was traumatic. My parents were dabbling in the black arts, and with that traumatic birth, something could have sneaked in and attached itself to me. All right, they almost lost me and my mom, and that played out with me and my daughter too. I mean, it wasn't because I was drinking or scared or anything. It's because I developed cholestasis, but it was the same thing. It was a traumatic birth, and my daughter was born with an APGAR of two. See how the generations it is. Grandma used to always say history repeats itself, and it does. So it did there in that instance. So my mother drank heavily while she was pregnant for me. I do have in a photo of me as an infant and a child, and you can see signs in the facial features of fetal alcohol syndrome. Now, a lot of the times, with that, like I was born tongue-tied. The cord underneath is supposed to be underneath, attached so that you can talk. One of the reasons I mumble outside of the teeth, especially when they're out, because yeah. Anyways, is because when I was learning how to talk as a child, I couldn't. And everybody would tell me, use your words, speak. I couldn't. And when I went to school, in kindergarten, that's when they found I was tongue tied. When they pulled teeth for braces, I had 10 teeth in my mouth pulled because I didn't have enough room in my mouth for for my teeth. When I got top teeth pulled, all the roots were embedded in my sinuses. Um, and I bet you the amygdala was smaller, the hippocampus. I bet you the brain grew differently, and that's one of the hallmarks of borderline personality they're finding is a lot of people with borderline personality disorder do tend to have smaller amygdalas and hippocampuses. And it also does something to the frontal lobe, the limbic system. So I developed I think I had fetal alcohol syndrome. Wasn't ever formally diagnosed. I do have borderline personality disorder, and the tests are so expensive, and the treatment is the same. So it's not really worth getting an MRI or anything of my brain to see. Um, I, of course, I've worn crooked pinkies. This one's straight because I broke it when I was a child. Um, so yeah, uh, all that happened. So traumatizing. And then the way my father treated my mom probably was not good. My aunt told me a lot about what went on down there, and it was an abusive environment. And that's where my brother was learning how to treat women, and I was learning how people should treat each other. So we're taking that all in. Like I said, your brain is like on hyperspeed growing until you're 5 years old. So I've noticed even with my daughter, the critical moment where her brain went back on hyperspeed because you have a low, but once you start reaching puberty, at the start of puberty, your brain starts growing faster at a faster rate too. And unfortunately, my daughter had a very negative experience at that time, and I bet you that's why she has the PTSD and a lot of coping um problems. It happened right as the brain started that launch of hyperspeed growth again. So, at these ages, it's very important to give kids positive reinforcement, positive experiences so that I mean, the other ages is the same, but at these two critical ages is very, very important. When the brain is on hyperspeed or when it's pruning too. I mean, the brain prunes itself. You can look it up online on the ages and stuff, all the way up till they say what men the age of 27 actually. As a matter of fact, when things hit the fan a couple years ago, I asked my daughter, just grow into your brain, don't change anything. And that's what she's doing, and she's doing fine now. I mean, but we did reach a rough patch, and I did have to call in some spiritual advisors as well as mental health advisors and the doctor, you know. I mean, and with all three of us all working together, Emily's been helped. Emily has been doing a lot better. I still have to hook up with Bishop Sparks about things, but Bishop Sparks is actually a counselor. He's uh an addiction specialist too. So if you ever need help with that stuff, you could probably reach out to Bishop Sparks. Joshua Sparks is his name. Um, he's a really really great person and human being. Um, Actually, they all are that I deal with. So I think, and then they call it the accident, but it was no accident. My father tried to kill my mom in front of me and my brother one fateful night. Um, so we witnessed that trauma. So the trauma continued. Something could have snuck in there because that's what happens with trauma, people. Now, I was not baptized. Baptism's important because part of the baptism of infants is so that we can get rid of any bad juju that's around them. It's like an exorcism, a mini exorcism, if you will. Um, that's what baptism is in the Catholic rite. Part of it is it's a mini exorcism. And we are denouncing Satan every time we renew our baptismal vows. Um, so Something could have snuck in there too. Like I said, I think it's a combination of everything. But then my grandmother takes me and my brother in, and we get to the lake, and the house is haunted. I mean, my aunt saw somebody in her room when she was younger, crouching with a knife in the corner. Um, my cousin saw things. My aunt Claire saw Grandpa in the window one time. And Grandpa wasn't not a very nice man. Very abusive man. So I could see where the negative haunting, you know, really had an effect on me. Because guess what? Grandma, when I was first born, took and put me in that smaller room that they were in, Grandma and Grandpa were in, and she took the bedroom that they had built for the girls. 'Cause they had what, 6 girls? No, 5 girls and 2 boys. So the 2 boys got a smaller room. The the 5 girls got a bigger room when Grandpa built the house or had the house built or when they all built the house. Let me put it that way because they all essentially helped build that house. Um, Grandpa had the smaller room that I grew up in. So Grandpa was still around in the house. So that's a haunting. Somehow, little Miss Muffet here is connected in seeing Grandpa, seeing different spirits coming in and out of the house. The dreaming, um, position on my bed had a lot to do with a lot of the nightmares. And when I saw that, there was one nightmare I was coming out of, and he was right here, right in front of my face. That I never debunked. That guy was right in front of my face. I was having a nightmare, open my eyes, he's right there, close my eyes, scream, everybody comes running into my bedroom, everybody in the house. And then my mom's trying to recreate, my mom without thinking, because she was hurt at this point, was trying to recreate the way the man was looking at me. He's like 2 inches in front of my face. That scared the shit out of me. That's how I knew he had age spots. He had a hideous grin. He had white hair. He had a like a bowler's cap on. I'm learning it was a bowler cap, but it wasn't a top hat. I always called it a top hat. And then when I saw him on the wall that Grandpa built, he had on a black trench coat, basically. And he was very tall, very tall. So he wasn't stubby. He's lanky, tall. Um, Like I said, I know he had the age spots. He had the hideous grin with a missing teeth. The whole yeah, it's you know. But I never found out who he was. I saw somebody recently. One of the families up at the lake let me see because there's one family that's been there forever. Um, so they let me see some of their family pictures, and there's a guy that actually kind of looks like him, but she said nobody in the family knows who that is. Wow. Um, yeah, I'm doing low frame per second, so I probably gonna have to get a new video camera. So, anyways, let me click that off. Well, hon, very soon. We'll just we'll get through this part and then we'll do a part two, okay? So, anyways, that happened. Um, In one of my dreams, my bed flipped over and I was in the bed. It was like I just fell asleep and it was like it was real. The bed flipped over and there was a demon in my room in my dream. And I ran out of my bedroom and my grandmother was just back and forth. I'm like, "Grandma, I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to live here anymore. There's something in my room. It was a demon." Um, back and forth. And I was in this house. It was everything's the same except for, the dynamics. And Grandma wasn't listening. I'm like, "Grandma, I really don't want to live here anymore. We gotta move. We gotta move." I'm adamant. And then my cousin Manny, of course, in my dream, come in, and I was explaining something was in my bedroom. And then I remembered I had holy water from St. Anne's Buffet, which I really did have in my room. I kept holy water in my room, um, because I was so afraid of the demonic. Um, and this was when I was a kid. I was in my teens, and in my dream, I sent Manny into my room, and Manny's big guy. Okay, my uncle was a big guy, and Manny took after him, and he was like what, six something, and he was very hefty, and he was like my bodyguard. So I sent him in there to get my holy water so I could just spray it onto that thing. And Manny come out of my bedroom and just ran out and just didn't even get anything. Just out the door in my dream. He just ran out the door in my dream. And I remember turning around and that creature was coming out of my bedroom. And I woke up. And that was a dream I remember like it was yesterday, but I had it when I was a teenager. And the two instances of the man that I saw right in front of my face, that was when I was awake. I saw that coming out of a nightmare. So I had always thought that man created my nightmares somehow. And then when I saw him, I used to help the elderly around the area, and it was a fall because I was raking leaves for Mrs. DeRocher down at there was a cabin there. It's not there anymore, but a red cabin. I was raking leaves and I looked up, and right on the wall that my grandfather built, I saw the same man, and that was in broad daylight. Um, he was just staring down at me while I was raking the leaves. Look down, look up, he's gone. Um, so there have been a lot of instances, but I have more I can tell you about, more dreams, more stories, than just that. Um, but because of time right now, and my daughter wants to come watch TV, I'm gonna wrap it up soon and say we're gonna leave it here. And I had, what was I gonna say? That dream. Yeah, I had a couple instances. I kept holy water in I wouldn't, right beside on my bed too, you know. That day my bed got moved because it depended on the position of the bed whether or not I had the demon nightmares. I called those demon nightmares. Um, but what I want to explain in wrapping this up is not everything that happened was paranormal. Okay. The man I can't explain, the man in front of my face I can't explain. The dreams, I don't know why I have them. Okay. Dreaming is a funny thing. I believe that, yeah, you can dream about dead relatives and they're visiting you. I believe that, yes, you can be oppressed and influenced through your dreams by a demonic force or by a spirit. Um, do I know whether or not those demon dreams actually had anything to do with a haunting? I don't know. This seems kind of funny because that nightmare I was having, he was right here. So I thought he was giving me the dreams, is what I came up with. But being a child of trauma, having that history of early childhood trauma, the brain is a funny thing. How's it gonna dump? You know what would it do? How would it come up with the images of something that really scares you that's going on in your life? So the nightmares are a tricky thing because you don't know whether or not they were actually from being influenced from a unseen force or whether or not it was your well, I can say this now. They didn't really say it when I was younger, but it's because of your mental health and this is the way my brain's trying to like deal with it is the trauma. So, I it's a journey. I watch ghost shows, just to find out what it could have been when I was growing up. It really bugged me. And it bugs me now, and it kind of really, I was thinking about that. Oh my God, I'm going to be totally sober without caffeine and coffee. I seem to be more open when I'm not drinking that stuff. And it scares me because I was so scared when I was younger. However, this is the life I've been given. And if I'm supposed to have that type of thing going on, um that God can use me to work for him with to help people and glorify his name to them and while we're doing it, then I guess it's okay. It's gonna have to be because I want to be the woman that God has created me to be. So if I have more experiences with seeing spiritual things as opposed to, I'm going to have to deal with it. And I'm going to need my mentors because I'm going to have to be able to talk about it and to say, okay, how can I make this good for myself in my life? How can I use this for God's purpose? Um, right now, I had mentioned to Archbishop, um, oh my goodness, not Cloud, not Bishop Cloud, not Bishop Sparks, Archbishop, not Archbishop Enright, but Archbishop the other one that I don't have anything. I don't know how to glorify God and help people. But maybe this is one way I can, you know. Um, so I'm gonna leave it here, and I'll probably make this an ongoing thing so that I can get used to the camera and doing live videos because I'm gonna be needing to do that for Avon, but also maybe to help myself and help other people work through what they need to work through spiritually as well as emotionally because it's very the paranormal. You don't want it to be a ghost. You don't want it to be a demon, okay? Quite honestly, what I've been through, you don't want that. You don't, it's not cool. It's not cool. Not cool. Nobody wants that happening. But I guess you do get those people that they want it to be that so badly that when and the church and the bishops and archbishops tell them it's not paranormal, this is mental health, they get all upset because they're not getting a quick fix, they're not getting an exorcism. They think exorcisms are cool or whatever. Um, they're not cool. They're not needed in most of the cases. A lot of times mental health comes into play and they have to be careful because it can hurt the mental health if they do it the wrong way. Okay. If it is the mental health, they can do further damage. So these people are the real deal and they have to be that careful. And if they have to be brutally honest and say, listen, you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, you're hearing voices, are you sure? You know what I'm saying? Are you sure it's not the schizophrenia? We think it's the schizophrenia. We don't think it's a demon. Like when I had the investigation, the guy walked in here. He says, "You know what? It's not heavy like it would be for a demonic. So chances were it's all human spirit." Anyways, I'm gonna get offline. My child, I told her a few like 15 minutes ago I was gonna end this. So you have a great day and an even better tomorrow, and watch for future episodes of this, but watch for things to come with Avon. Have a great day. Oh, oh, guess what? Love the skin you're in. Bye.